welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We are going to delve a little bit into the world of miniatures. One of the only social media platforms that have been able to successfully influence me into buying something is TikTok. I came across these make it Miniverse things on TikTok, which is like making tiny food from a little kit that you can get. And I saw it and the person doing it is turning it into fridge magnets as well. And I thought, I want to do that. I want cute little tiny food fridge magnets. That's so fun. So that is what we're doing today. I'm going to be making up these kits. This is what they look like. They come in these little balls. They're like a mystery ball, and they have any number of different foods in them. I'll show you these on close when I open them. I do have some that I've opened, like this. I'll probably need to put in some footage of it closer up, but you can at least see the scale. It comes with some tweezers, but then it also comes with, like, you can see this is a tiny little ice cream thing or milkshake thing, and it has mint chip milkshake stuff, and little tiny chocolate chips, and I just thought these were so cute. I saw them on TikTok, they made me so happy, and so I went ahead and I purchased some. I have probably about 10, and I'm really excited to make them because I really like miniatures. I had a dollhouse growing up that I really loved to, I feel like play with is the wrong word. I don't feel like I played dolls in the house that much as I enjoyed like rearranging the furniture. Actually, I do think one day when I have my own home, I'm gonna get my childhood dollhouse shipped to me, so that way I can have a little house I can make over on tighter budget than my real house. Yeah, I've just kind of always had a love for miniatures. Before I really jump into this, I kind of want to go into some disclaimers. So first, I do want to note these, which you'll see when I unwrap them. That's actually one of the reasons I wanted to unwrap it for you, is I wanted to show you the fun of the mystery experience, but I also wanted to show you how wasteful these are. These are like the biggest plastic waste I have ever seen. I think people show them opening enough on TikTok that I should have realized it. Everything's individually wrapped, which you'll see in a second. My second disclaimer is, let me find the age on this. Not suitable for children under 8 years old. So I'm going to disagree with this. I'm going to say this is not suitable for children, period. I would not recommend anyone under 16 use these. If they are under 16, like 12 and up with a lot of crafting experience and a willingness to like listen and understand safety hazards. So this was going to get us into our other disclaimer. So these are really fun, but they do use UV resin. UV resin is actually a pretty dangerous substance. You shouldn't inhale it. You shouldn't get it on your skin. There's a few reasons you don't see me use resin on this channel that often. I used it most recently for my Baja Blast dress, which I can link here. It was a really fun project, but I don't use resin often for a couple reasons. First of it being not good for the environment. The second being it is really, really hazardous material. The fumes are hazardous. Yeah, you shouldn't get it on your skin. It's volatile. If you don't cure it properly, it's going to leak fumes into your home. There's just a whole plethora of issues with this. My biggest beef with these is the disclaimers don't actually give you enough safety precautions. So even though there isn't that much UV resin in this, I would still treat it very, very cautiously. When I work with this, you're going to see me using a full-on respirators and gloves because I don't want this on the skin. I don't want to breathe this in. Some might say I'm being over dramatic, and what I would like to kind of say to that is if you have any artists in your life who are like 50 and up, which I do, they have so many stories of their friends dying from all the different hazardous materials they worked with. Chances are, of course, that I am not going to die, or you are not going to die for the little amount of UV resin in these kits, but you can develop skin irritation, or you could also develop lung issues. You never know what's going to trigger your body, and my body is relatively easier triggered. And also, I think, thinking about the fact we all went through in Panini, we are going to have weaker immune systems as well as weaker respiratory systems. So I would just urge you to use these with a ton of caution. You are not going to see TikTokers wearing gloves or respirators while using this, but I would really, really encourage you to. Anytime you work with resin, I would recommend the gloves. I don't think I knew that back when I worked with my Baja Blast, but I now personally would not work with resin without a respirator. Sorry, that was not very fun, but I think it's really important to talk about the dangers of crafting supplies. Obviously, do what you're gonna do. That's just my little 2 cents, but enough with the disclaimers. So what my plan is, as this is the day before, my plan is to open the 3 I haven't opened and show you guys on camera. So we're gonna start with that, and then I'm gonna show you all the other boxes like this I've gotten, like what's in them. And then tomorrow I'm gonna go outside. That's the other thing. I don't use resin inside my house at all. I will only use it outside. When I do get to the gluing part where I am gluing the magnets to the back, I will do that inside my house. I will have a window open and good circulation and an air filter running, but I will do that in the house. However, the resin is gonna happen outside, and I am not gonna lie, it's cold and I'm dreading going and doing work outside, which is why we're avoiding that today. So let's go ahead and dive into me cracking this bad boy open. So first things first, I am starting by opening this up. As you can see, it has that first round of plastic, then a second round of plastic, and then last we have a third clear round of plastic. This just feels excessive. I assume they have it like this to prevent UV rays from going through, but I don't know. I feel like there's a way you could do it in like a box or something and not have it be so plastic heavy. Because then of course you also have the plastic ball encasing on top of all this other plastic. And then once these are open, you can see there's a bunch of little plastic bags as well as a little plastic table. I don't know if people are actually using the plastic table. This feels like another part of the plastic they could cut down on. There's also all these little booklets. Some are the warnings for the UV resin, which I did of course read through, and I'll give you more information on that when I hop into my gear. But this here is the diner series, which has like pies and stuff. I'm really hoping for more food because I think it's really cute. And this one in this book shows everything that you could get. And then from here I go to opening my individually wrapped little packs. First, these are some bananas. Oh, I'm excited, I have food here actually. And then we have some maple syrup with a little tiny lid you can put on it. And then here are the little tweezers, some little chocolate chips. Looks like we're doing banana chocolate chip something. And with this, it looks like we're doing some pancakes. I'm really excited. And then we have the little tiny fork, again, in its own plastic pouch. It's ridiculous. But that is the first things. While I unpeel this one, Mini Brands, Mini Food, Miniverse or whatever, this is my plea to you on doing something different. So you could use instead a cardboard box. It would still be a mystery. You could, I guess, plastic wrap that once if you really needed to. For the UV rays, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know that science. We could just not have it in a plastic ball. I don't know that the plastic ball is that helpful. I think you could skip the table, and then instead of individually wrapping everything in these little plastic bags, you could go ahead and do that like brown butcher paper essentially that comes in wrapping, and you can put that in, and then all the individual things should be safe if they're packed in with that. That would be a less plastic waste proposition for Mini Brands. This is so wasteful. I ordered these all at once, and I don't know that I would have ordered this many if I realized truly how bad the plastic waste is. This is the cafe series, so it's more drink based and like little snack based. So these are what I can get. But yeah, as you see the like pile of trash mounting, this one here is the berry juice. This is going to be a duplicate from another one I have, which is going to be, it kind of looks like a Starbucks acai berry refresher. The little ice packet, it doesn't look like it focused well on this, but it's so cute. And again, this plastic straw is wrapped in 2 plastic bags. It's just ridiculous. And then there's these little like blackberries, I guess. They're very, very purple. And here's Spooky Inspecting. And then last is this cup that everything goes in. And we are now unwrapping our last one, which is the diner series. My last packs, and as you can see, this trash pile is out of control, and this is just 3. We have some berries. Again, we have the Spooky Inspection happening. She's got a little piece of kibble on her chin. And then we have our marshmallow cream or lemon cream. Oh, it looks like this might be a tart. Yes, it is a tart. We have our little tart crust. It even has little fork stabbies in it. I do really wish they figured out the plastic problem with these because they are so darn cute, and I do think you could do it with significantly less plastic. And last is this little fork. Spooky took a little bite of the little fork, and it was very silly. She's very involved in the fork. And that is it on opening. And here I'm going to show you a quick time lapse of everything I have to work with. So with these, I'm just going to be sticking them in here. So my plan is basically everything will become a magnet. I don't want to waste all these different pieces of plastic. So yeah, the goal is for magnet, like even the little ice bags and stuff like that. I am going to try to not throw away as much by using all the other tiny things, not just the object we make, but I'll have to kind of see what's possible after using the UV resin, or like how many berries or bananas or whatever that I'm using. This is what we have to work with. I will catch you tomorrow. It is tomorrow, today, whatever. It's not that long for you. It was a lot longer for me. So I've brought out everything I think I need. I have gloves. The booklet actually did mention making sure to wear eye coverage, and they did say not to get it on skin, but they didn't tell you to wear gloves. And they do tell you to be in a very ventilated spot. I still think there's more precautions you should take when handling resin. So here I am putting on my gloves. gloves for my PPE. The other thing is they say you can just cure these in sunlight. I don't know that I would recommend that. I just think it's really important that your UV resin gets super cured. So here I'm going to be using a gel curing thing, which you'll see when the light goes really, really bright and blue, I'm curing something, and I am going to be hyper cautious and be over curing these. I don't think they need as long as I'm putting them in for, but I just don't want to be bringing these fumes into my home at all. The other precautions I'm using is I do have my hair back and out. I know it looks like it goes in my face, but with a ponytail it's pretty easy to swing back. And then I have trash bags over my legs in case I get any UV resin drip. You want to really make sure these don't end up in any of your fibers, so that is why I am wearing the trash bag. I did have neighbors come out and stare at me. I guess I also should have thought about the fact I was doing this on like 9 a.m. on Easter Sunday. That it also might be particularly strange, but people were definitely kind of staring at me, which I get. I would stare at me too and be like, who is she? What is she doing? The other thing I got for this is this little UV flashlight, which didn't end up working, but I can use it for other things, so that's totally fine. So first up, I'm making this little mocha. One of the first things that is really hard is it's so hard to get the resin out of the little containers, as well as opening the containers, and it was really, really hard to do it with my PPE on. I am not sure about that. What you also didn't see is I put a bunch in the bottom and then I cured it, and then I'm putting the ice in the top and getting more resin in. I'm doing this so the ice is actually at the top and isn't like weirdly sitting at the bottom of the drink. So that is why I am doing this like cured in multiple steps. It did mean I had to kind of like approximate where I think the straw would go best, which maybe it didn't go best. And then as you can see, I'm struggling to get this UV resin, and spoiler alert, it's only gonna get worse. After this, I go ahead and I top it with the whipped cream and the little chocolate chips on top. The chocolate chips are a rogue addition by me from a different kit. I just thought a mocha with chocolate chips makes perfect sense. And with this finished up, I'm gonna put it in the thing to cure, as well as the open UV resin bottle. So they do clarify that you need to cure these as well if you're going to keep them. My basic rule today is if it's not going back in the house until it's been under the light. That's going to be true of tweezers, gloves, scissors, everything. It will not go back in the house until it has been under the UV light. Playing it safe method. Next up, we're doing a berry refresher. Because there's two, so it feels very low pressure if I screw up one. Since this was a duplicate, I am just opening all the different pieces, getting them ready to go. Here I am trying to show you how hard it is to get these resin containers open. I will say, like, to their credit, they're very, very sealed. However, they're very, very, very impractical. It was hard to open these, hard to squeeze the things out. I ended up just stabbing in a pair of not very good sewing scissors that I did cure at the end of the day to make sure there was no uncured UV resin hanging around on them. But at the end I had to stab, and then the hole wasn't that big to get the resin out of. The packaging was honestly just kind of a disaster for the resin. I really think they need to figure out how to formulate these to not include resin, or to include resin in a much better and less challenging way. But I did finally get the resin out, and I am now able to squeeze it into the cup. But again, I am really putting that pressure in, but it is this beautiful pink color at least. And again, I'm going to cure this bit under the light with just a few berries kind of floating in it before then putting the ice in. Then I'll arrange the ice and the berries, get things all mixed up with the straw and stuff like that. Didn't put the straw in with the thought about the fact there is a top to this drink, so this drink will not have a top. Whoops. Next up is going to be this cute little lemonade. Again, I know, shocking, I'm struggling to get the resin open. This, I'm going to add some little berries in for some extra pizzazzy zazz. That is the plan, and again, we are struggling from the get-go. Eventually, I did get it out though, and then I will put it again under the curing lamp after sticking the straw in. It's important if you're curing this in layers, which I learned from one of the TikTokers, that you have to remember to put the straw in or the straw will never go in. But I definitely think curing in layers was the best course of action here, and I will link the TikToker who showed me how to do this if I can find them. As we know, searching in TikTok is rather challenging. And then after that, I am dropping in the ice and the berries, and then I will put in more resin and kind of mix that up again with my little tweezers. There is enough UV light even in the Pacific Northwest to cure this resin though, because my tweezers did end up getting kind of like hard, like the resin on them. They didn't stay sticky and weird. So it is good to know that this will cure. However, it also makes me have to rush a little bit more, and it might have contributed to why it was so hard to squeeze the resin out of these. The last touch in this are these little lemon. I loved that the lemons had the detail of even being transparent, kind of like lemon slices are. So what I decided to do here is I tried to cut out a part of this lemon so I could stick it on the side of the glass. These, however, are really crappy scissors and it didn't work. And then I also couldn't even get it to stick on with the resin. So I decided to give up and do this part after with super glue. But again, everything went under the UV light because nothing goes back in the house without going under the UV light. Next up is a chocolate milkshake. I am working on getting the milkshake out. I realized with the mocha I should have used the caramel whipped cream, which you see there, but I didn't realize there was a difference between whipped creams, so whoops. I started by putting the chocolate chips in the bottom, which you couldn't even see. My thought was that if you had chocolate chips in the bottom, people could see them. I think this was another rogue decision by me. I don't think this kit even came with chocolate chips. And then once I got the resin on, I put it in, and then this time I put in the straw, and I thought it would be a great idea to not cure it before putting in the whipped cream. This is why you should cure in layers, people. As you can see, the whipped cream is slowly sinking in, and there's nothing I can do about it because once the whipped cream is covered in brown, it's not that useful. So I just kind of let it fall into there, and I stick in the chocolate sticks, and I just try to arrange everything for the best. And now it's spilling over the side, and this has been a complete disaster, but I'm gonna cure it and we'll see how it turns out in the end. And I did have 2 pairs of gloves to do this, and you can see I got a mess all over these gloves, so I swapped one of them out. This is again why I would really recommend using gloves, is I would have gotten UV resin all over my skin, which could have caused a rash. And now we're on to our next milkshake, which is this little mint one. I've put some chocolate chips in, I've put the mint in, which is definitely a little bit more translucent. The chocolate chips kind of came out everywhere. That was not the goal, but yeah, everything was hard. Everything was really hard to do with gloves, but I would have gotten so much UV resin on my hands if I hadn't done it with gloves. Honestly, like, kudos to the TikTokers who don't seem to have gotten this all over and made this look really easy. This was definitely a lot harder and more frustrating than I expected. I mean, it might have been easier if I wasn't wearing the gloves. You could not pay me enough money in the world to handle UV resin on my bare skin. This time I did cure things. I put a little bit more resin in at the top, and I put in a chocolate bar and a couple of whipped creams. The chocolate bar was, again, me going rogue. The whipped creams came with this set, but I thought it would be cute with a little chocolate bar in the top too. Next up, I am hoping for an easy one, which this was more easy. This was the boba one, which I was putting the boba in the bottom, a little bit of resin. There is also going to be ice in here. It was kind of hard to mush things around to get the liquid to drip all around the boba, and so that way it would like make sense. But this was way easier than literally all of the drinks I did otherwise. But again, I don't know how you would have done this without getting UV resin on your skin. Now I'm just popping in the ice on the top. Again, these ice are so cute, and then I am going to put it under the light to cure. After putting the lid on, which is this little like circular lid, kind of, actually not how boba usually comes. Boba is usually sealed, but that's nitpicky of me. This little domed lid was very cute. But I did have to figure out how to get the straw and the ice to all like balance around this guy. I didn't cure this till the very end, and I was very glad I did that. But I did get the lid on, and we're now ready to put it under the lamp. Next up, I'm very excited about this one. I put little shortcake squares down in the bottom. And then the other thing I'm doing, because I noticed on TikTok, if you just kind of throw things in, they look very willy-nilly and not great. So I am putting the strawberries in and then using these really terrible tweezers to put them against the wall. I kind of wish they didn't even include these tweezers and instead like wrote on the instruction manual to get a pair of tweezers that you're willing to ruin in resin. These tweezers were not very good, which, I mean, they're plastic. I wouldn't expect them to be particularly great. But as you can see, I'm just kind of working to press those strawberries up the side so that way you can see them and they aren't lost in the middle of the resin. And then I'm going to cure that before decorating the top. For the decorating the top, I put in some little shortcake cubes again, some strawberry slices, and then one big whole strawberry in the center. I thought this was super cute, and I'm really, really happy with how this turned out, and I'm really glad I did kind of the more complicated things later. This would have not turned out as well if I had done it from the start. Next up was this cheesecake. The resin would not come out. There wasn't very much resin in the side of the jar. It was actually kind of frustrating because it felt like they prioritized like the vessel itself being cute over being functional. So there like wasn't very much in this one or in the maple syrup jars, which you'll see later. So I could barely get any of this berry stuff out. So I got pretty frustrated pretty quickly with this one. And then the resin started to harden too quickly because I was outside because of the ventilation. So this overall was not a success. I did my best though, and I tried to make it work. Once I finally got that out, I stuck the strawberries in the resin and started to kind of try to spread them out in a pleasing manner. This was again hard because the tweezers aren't very good, and obviously with my hands wearing gloves, my fingers were not particularly effective, and it just didn't really turn out pretty or at all in the way that I wanted it to, but that's okay. And the last step was putting the 2 strawberries on the top. These didn't really stick actually, so I had to super glue a couple of these on later. Next up, I was going to start on the French toast, but I realized I was probably having some resin issues at this point because it had been over an hour and UV light was probably infiltrating some of these bottles. So I realized it was important for me to first prioritize things that need liquid, such as these cereal. As you can see, the cereal even comes in a cute little bag in the box. See, this is a touch that I actually think the plastic makes sense. However, it was very hard to get the bag out of the box with my gloves on and trying not to get UV all over the box. It was a journey, that's for sure. But I did finally get open. I poured all of them in, which was kind of not the plan. I had kind of wanted to like press them up against the sides so they looked cute. The biggest thing I noticed when I watched other TikTokers make cereal is that like they didn't... It looked bad because there was, I think, too much milk. So I used the fact my UV had started to solidify to my advantage, and I mixed the cereal in a way that made sense to me, which was with not that much milk, just enough to hold all the Cheerios together and look like there's milk, but not so much milk that you can't see the Cheerios clearly. So that's the method I used. I was also exhausted at this point. I'm not gonna lie, my fingers hurt so bad from trying to get the resin out of the containers. You can see how I'm squeezing here. My hands were actually physically sore for multiple days after this. So I also wouldn't recommend this as a craft for anybody with like lack of hand strength or like hand limitations, which is probably not shocking, but I do think if they had a more user-friendly resin instead of trying to make them cute, it could be more of an option for more people. I'm just mixing around the milk. It's looking pretty gummy and gross, and then I am popping that last bit of cereal in the top so it's nice and clean and pretty cereal, since I know I'm going to stick the magnet on the bottom of the bowl here. And again, I've decided to prioritize my liquids, so I'm going to do that second berry refresher. Instead of putting the blackberries in and having the exact same thing, I grabbed these little tiny clay strawberries I have from just being a craft hoarder. So I put those little strawberries in and I mixed them around, and I used a ton of strawberries because I have a whole big container here. As you can see, the resin at this point is definitely much gloopier than it was at the beginning, so I'm moving as quick as I can. This does mean that I can put the ice in kind of before I cure the whole thing, because it's not going to go down to the bottom because the resin isn't liquidy enough for this. Definitely, if you do use this outdoors, which in my opinion you should use it outdoors, especially if you have children's or pets, I would make sure to keep some of the resin like inside in like a dark box so it doesn't process while you work on your other pieces. Learn from my mistakes. I mean, I honestly wouldn't recommend these at all, but we'll get into that. But that is a method that I would suggest. So after I finished this guy up, my hands were exhausted and I just had the plate ones left, and I decided I would just rather use a like safe low odor super glue to put them together. Even though it would mean they wouldn't have maple syrup, I think they would turn out better than me torturing my hands for any longer. So this is the last one you're gonna see me wrap up with. And then again, I'm curing everything before they go back in the house. I just want to show you the trauma these put on my hands. As you can see, my nails are absolutely busted from trying to open and push out the resin. So now we are another couple days later because I had to go get super glue, but it was Easter, so every craft store was closed, which I am all for things being closed on holidays. So we're another day later. I got a low odor glue that I could use indoors, and then I have a window open as well as having my air filter on. So we're in good place circulation wise. I did have to make sure Spooky was not in the area because that would be a huge problem if she got super glue on her fur. This super glue was annoying in that you couldn't really actually target it, so instead I put it down on this piece of plastic and then kind of like used the tweezers or various methods to like scoop it onto what I actually needed it for. So this really wasn't ideal either. I should have gone with the bead and jewelry glue with the targeted like heads you can put on, but this one said it would like stick plastic and plastic together better, which is what I really needed. So here I am finally getting that strawberry touch to that cheesecake, so that way that cheesecake is good to go for a magnet. Next up, we're doing the banana blueberry French toast. I'm very excited. I can be so much more strategic, and I can actually bring out my super glue tweezers, which are tweezers I allow myself to use for super glue, and because I don't have to wear gloves, I can have my hands out. This was just so much of a better experience not having to use the gloves, and I do think it's a huge problem if your product is a skin irritant and you can't use it with gloves on. So yeah, I have a lot of hot takes about how these actually work, and I have a lot of opinions on the fact I would have never bought these if I knew how hard it was. The first day it took me a couple hours to get through everything, and I just was absolutely exhausted. This was an exhausting kit, but enough of that. We can just enjoy me putting these little berries and bananas on these little French toasts. Turns out I went rogue here and I used the chocolate instead, even though I think these are supposed to go with the pancakes, but it's fine. The pancakes are going to be the blueberries and bananas. I am not going to re-record my voiceover, so I'm correcting myself here. And then with those done, we are ready for the pancakes. I'm so excited. I saved these for last because I wanted them to turn out amazing because they were my secret favorite. So I am going to do blueberry banana pancakes, and then I'm going to put on some little whipped cream guys because I think whipped cream belongs on pancakes, and I had these two left over that wouldn't like add any benefit to any of the other packaging. The other thing I'll note here while you watch me put these on is while they do recommend you like cure the little juice or maple syrup or whatever containers, I ended up throwing everything of those away because by the time you cured them, they wrinkled weird and they looked weird and they smelled weird. So I decided to just go ahead and not keep those because I wasn't sure about them, both aesthetically, but from a safety and fumes in my home. Especially since I'm making these into refrigerator magnets and they'll be in my kitchen, I don't want to risk any fumes. So you're not going to see me actually make those into magnets, which I am actually super bummed about because they would have made such cute magnets. Last up was the tart. In this case, I used the glue to just fill the tart, hoping that the berries would cover it enough that you wouldn't be able to tell that it was like glue instead of an actual filling. I used the fork that I knew I was going to stick in to spread that out. And then I have some purple, which are supposed to, I'm sure, be blackberries, and some raspberries to put in here, and I'm just sprinkling those in, kind of every othering them to get them that like nice, cute little varied tart effect. I absolutely love this tart. I'm so happy that I did all of the food with super glue. It was so much more enjoyable, and definitely in the future, I'm gonna get normal miniature kits that are more designed to be used like this than the Make It Mini kits, which just like didn't work for me personally. You can also actually like color things like super glue by mixing like acrylics and stuff in them. So there's like a way to get a similar effect to resin without as much of the hassle. And then after that, I'm gonna start working on the magnets themselves. So again, I have that big glop of super glue I put down, and then I'm grabbing a few pieces of different things, dipping the tiny little magnets I bought off of Amazon. I can link those down below. These worked great for fridge magnets. They were very, very strong and very, very tiny. Of course, be really, really careful you don't leave these around like pets or children because this would be a huge problem if someone swallowed one. So make sure to not do that because they are very powerful. But I'm just dipping these in the glue and then sticking them on to the packaging. As you can see, I'm using the berry packaging as magnets. And then I am also repeating this process with stuff like the milkshake, the cheesecake, things like that. I am sticking it to all of them. We're just kind of moving along, nothing too crazy. And that is how we are going to finish up all these magnets. I did learn pretty quick that I have to set these to dry pretty far away from each other or the magnets will attach and everything will be ruined. So I did do that, but I left these to cure for 24 hours overnight. So let's go ahead and hop straight into the reveal. All right, here are my beautiful final magnets. Look at that cheesecake. Actually, I'm not that excited about the cheesecake, but that's okay. But I do really like, I have my two different I don't know, I think they look like refreshers. I don't remember what brand that is. I have my little boxes. I absolutely adore the way my cereal turned out and the way this tart up here turned out. And this little lemony drink and the pancakes. I'm overall very, very pleased with how these turned out. I'll keep giving you the tour. The mocha's okay. I do like how my mint chocolate chip shake turned out. And then of course we have all the like the accessories of stuff I didn't do. My boba turned out cute. I love the box of cereal. I actually love, I'm hoping I can get a good look at this one. It's awkward because like if I am actually in the way, I'm blocking the light. But I actually am okay with how this one turned out, despite the disaster. I love my French toast. And I also really like how my little strawberry shortcake one came out. That's how they turned out. Again, I guess hand for size reference. But they're so cute and I'm so happy. They are everything I hoped for. However, I still have lots of thoughts on this whole process. And so we'll hop into the outro / like general review of this product. But again, look at them. They make me so happy. All right, you have seen my final little magnets. I got a couple right here. They're super cute. I will say, while these are super cute, I personally would not purchase these again. While they were fun-ish, they were honestly more frustrating than fun. It was so hard to squeeze the resin out of the containers, all the safety stuff you have to put in place to like make sure you're not going to have any effects from the UV resin. Just honestly, I would rather get other miniature kits that don't involve like a kind of semi-dangerous and tricky to work with substance. Like this one, I made just using the super glue and I feel like it was much more successful. This one was the one that I messed up but ended up liking because it felt like the drip was intentional. I think these are not really for like inexperienced crafters, and just the environmental impact of all the plastic waste with the environmental impact of the UV resin and the safety precautions you have to take, I just don't think I would do it again. And they were hard. They weren't as fun as I thought they would be. Maybe they'd be more fun if you did it one at a time, but to me you need to put the safety gear on each time, so that doesn't sound very fun to me either. So yeah, I don't know, I kind of have mixed feelings. While I do really love my fridge magnets, I don't know that I would do it again. Feels kind of weird to like end a video kind of on a downer like that, but yeah, I just struggled a lot with the kits. And they were such a like environmental waste that I just absolutely would not buy these again. And I don't know that I would recommend them to anyone who's not like a pretty experienced crafter. So the fact that these are advertised for kids is really wild to me. One of the things that I'm sure you saw over and over again was me struggling to get the resin out without having to take off my gloves. When I did read the directions, I do give them a little bit more credit. They do encourage you to wear eyewear and be in a like ventilated space. However, they don't encourage you to wear gloves, and I think it's pretty imperative you wear gloves for this. I wouldn't have been able to figure out a way to open the resin that didn't spooky. Sorry, my child needs attention. I just got home from work. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't need to say it 6,000 times that I just wouldn't recommend it, and I'm not the most satisfied. It's spooky. I need you to sit still. But with that, I'm gonna take this bouncing baby. I'm gonna play with her for a bit, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely did enjoy testing this product and making the things. And as always, you can subscribe and stick around. I would love to have you, and I will see you next time. Bye. Can you say bye, Spooky? No. Okay. Well, bye anyway.